This is the Alien Podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're here discussing Alien Earth, Episode 1, Neverland.
You all good, Captain?
Hey, commas are down. Looks like the log files are corrupted.
Well, it's probably just a glitch. I can have a look.
No. Security will investigate.
We're also burning way too much fuel. I want you and Tang looking into what system we can shut down.
Why don't we just shoot Chibusu's specimens into space and shut down a little zoo?
Okay, I think he means real suggestions.
This is a real suggestion. Those things give me the creeps.
Yeah, me too.
Specimens are the mission.
Easy for you to say, cyborg.
Welcome, fellow Lost Boys and Girls. This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're discussing Alien Earth, Episode 1, Neverland. I am one of your hosts, Derek.
Yes, welcome to the Alien Podcast, fellow Lost Boys or fellow aliens. I'm one of your other hosts, John.
Very excited about this one. We are
big time.
Massive Alien fans, and we are so looking forward to talking about this. We saw the first episode a couple of weeks ago when we were given it as a preview, and the minute we saw it, we went, "Ooh, we got a podcast on this."
Definitely, absolutely adore aliens. And to be honest, I can kind of watch any of them. I'm not saying that they are the world beaters, some of the ones in the franchise, but I mean, you know, controversial as it may sound, I do really quite like Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
And the latest one was really good, Alien Romulus. I think back in the day, I certainly didn't mind the first Alien versus Predator movie.
Yeah.
Thought that was quite good. So yeah, I mean, I always like this scary alien with its acidic blood, its two little mouths, its full set of tooth implants. One day we will see an alien with gold teeth, I guess.
I think this one might have had some metal teeth, to be honest, in this episode. But we will obviously be talking about major spoilers for this show. We are going to discuss the first episode. The first two episodes are available in Disney Plus. We'd love you to join us for our coverage of Alien. You can subscribe to our podcast over on tvpodcastindustries.com or wherever you get your podcasts, of course. But if you go over there, you'll be able to subscribe to the main feed, which has access to all of our almost 1,000 podcasts and all the shows we've covered over the last 11 years of podcasting. So we'd love to have you subscribe over there. You can also send any feedback that you have to us. You can send it to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries, where you can leave your thoughts on the spoiler posts for each episode of the shows that we're covering as well. But as John mentioned, we are massive Alien fans. I think I even was there opening day for AVP Requiem, John, in the cinema.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like, I just like the idea of like setting off an alien and a predator on a group of teens. I thought that was going to be a bit of fun. It wasn't as good as I thought it was, but I have watched it multiple times now, I'll admit.
Well, that's it. I mean, it is just like, yeah, I mean, it's one of those shows where those who've listened to our other podcasts, which may have an element of horror, they know that I love horror. I also hate it. I mean, I really do get scared. I really live it. This is no exception. It's superb. I mean, I was really intrigued. Okay, the alien is coming to Earth. It's set before Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien. So it's a prelude, in a sense, to that movie. I was like, how is this going to work? And at least in these first two episodes, I am hook, lined, and sinkered into this whole concept that is being brought to us by Noah Hawley, who, of course, brought us such gems as Fargo, the TV series, based on the very famous Coen Brothers movie, as well as Legion, based on Marvel Comics.
He's such a great talent. He really is. We saw an interview with him, or we were at an interview with him a couple of weeks ago, where he was talking about the fact that this project or this idea of a project was brought to him while he was doing Legion. So that long ago, that FX, the channel that produced this show and produced Legion, loved his work on Legion so much they were like, can we keep you on board somehow? Can we keep you working for a company? If we happen to get the rights to Alien at some point down the line, would you have an idea of how you would like to turn that into a TV show?
Yeah.
And apparently even back then, Hawley had this idea, this concept, or a concept that he really was interested in working on for an Alien show. So as soon as they got the rights, they talked to him about it and he developed this idea. So, yeah, we're seeing many years of work here. It's been stalled a little bit. A bunch of things have happened. A lot of, the usual stuff like COVID and the writer strikes and actor strikes that have delayed this stuff, but a lot of the casting was happening as early as 2020 on this. So interesting to see where we are now with this casting crew.
Yes, let us get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Alien Earth Episode 1, Neverland. Derek, who gave us what, where, when, and how? This might be an easy one.
It is. Well, as you mentioned, the show is set 2 years before the movie Alien from Ridley Scott, of course. So it's based on characters created for that movie by Dan O'Bannon and Ridley Scott. The executive producer of the show, as we already mentioned, is Noah Hawley, who writes and directs this first episode in the series as well. So very cool to have him on board, really setting his stamp out on the series, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think such a good little stamp he does press onto this. Absolutely. As we say, one of our rules, if the showrunner is writing and heavily involved in the first episode as well as the last, that's usually a good sign, because they're setting that standard moving forward. So yeah, good to see Noah Hawley involved in literally all those three elements.
Exactly. Yes, this is his vision truly put on screen for that first episode, along with all the cast and production team and everybody behind it. Of course, there's hundreds and hundreds of people involved in the show, but he's the guiding hand for this first episode. John, do you want to tell us what he gave us with your synopsis for the first episode of Alien Earth, Neverland?
Sure. In 2120, 5 companies control Earth and the colonized solar system, including the recently founded Prodigy Corporation. The USCSS Maginot, a Weyland-Yutani C-class deep space research vessel, approaches Earth after a 65-year expedition to obtain extra-terrestrial specimens, among them facehuggers. On Earth, at Prodigy's Neverland research island, a terminally ill child named Marcy becomes the first hybrid, having her consciousness transferred into an adult synthetic, and renames herself Wendy after the character from Peter Pan. Adjusting to her new body with the assistance of Dame Sylvia and synthetic mentor Kirsch, Wendy guides and oversees several other children who undergo the same procedure. Meanwhile, out in space, a malfunction compromises the Maginot's navigation, placing it on a collision course with Earth. Some of the specimens have gotten loose and a grown xenomorph kills most of the crew, with the exception of a security officer, Morrow, who sacrifices a member of the crew and uses Mother's impact room to survive the impending crash and the xenomorph. The ship crashes into a tower in Prodigy City, New Siam, where Wendy's human brother, Joe DiMaggio, works as a medic and corporate soldier with the tag Hermit. CEO of Prodigy Corporation, Boy Cavalier, asserts the Maginot's contents now belong to Prodigy and deploys Kirsch, Wendy, and the other hybrids to assist with the search and rescue and to test their enhanced capabilities. Security Officer Morrow, who survived the crash in the reinforced panic room, moves to protect the cargo and go after the fugitive specimens. He detains 2 Prodigy soldiers who are killed by a leech-like specimen. As Wendy and Kirsch fly towards New Siam with the other hybrids, collectively called the Lost Boys, she remarks to Kirsch that she wants to save her brother from death.
Awful lot happened in this opening episode. I must say, there was a point where I was going, this just really feels like a movie. And, there's so much happened and we're only half an hour into the episode. It's just really, really strong opener.
Absolutely. But I think we should say, off the bat, there is this text up front that is basically saying, as the synopsis said, the Earth is controlled by 5 corporations, of which, this series heavily influenced by Weyland-Yutani, but also is based, at least on Earth, in an area that is controlled by this corporation with a boy wonder called Boy Cavalier, and the corporation is called Prodigy.
Yeah.
So that's there, and it really, what is sort of flagged from the outset is that these companies are vying for effectively immortality for the human race in various different guises, or themselves.
Like, I think the opening information dump that's there on screen basically says there are 3 different types of creations now. There's cyborgs, which are cybernetically enhanced humans. There's synths, which are artificially intelligent beings, and there's hybrids, which are synths with human consciousness inside them. And whoever wins in the battle between these corporations will control the universe. So that's what they're doing. The corporations are trying to control the universe.
Yes, it's and the race for immortality.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that they can keep you going for longer.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like the Duracell battery back in the day.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Will Duracell be one of those corporations when we get to this point in our future history? And I feel like, because that's in the opening text of the episode, that this is what the series is more going to be focused on. Like, I think the xenomorphs and the aliens, of course, are going to be a threat. They're going to be in the background for a lot of the episodes, but I think we're going to get a lot more detail about these corporations and their battle for supremacy on Earth.
I guess so. I guess so. I mean, I just took it as really important context around how this universe operates.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's a Blade Runner type landscape where it is the corporations that, in essence, run the world.
Yeah, not much different to today, to be honest. We just hide it a bit more now.
I guess the state is still clinging on, but it's not like they're not lawless. It's not a lawless place. But the rules, I guess, are very corporate orientated. So around proprietary information, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so really what you see is that, yes, these corporations are led by hugely rich, influential people. I mean, for Prodigy, which is the main focus for this show, it is a multi-trillionaire young prodigy who has just come out of nowhere and shot to the top of, I guess, the pack, and controls huge swathes of the Earth. So particularly for Prodigy, it's around mid and southern Africa and Southeast Asia, Australia. There's Weyland-Yutani, which are in North and South America. Threshold, which is in Europe. You have Dynamics, which is North Africa. And then you have Lynch, which is kind of Russia and sort of the Far East. And so that's really where we get to here. But equally, I think that's the context for me. And I do like seeing this because, I mean, huge fan of Ridley Scott, I think, and Philip K. Dick. And I think, Blade Runner or Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep as the book, that notion of that future landscape, that future society that's portrayed, at least in the Blade Runner movie, that it's in effect CEOs, is just really sort of scary. Yeah. And here you have that evolution of it where they really do control it for profit, effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the context of where the show is set up. But let's talk about some of our major moments from the episode, the major things that stand out to us from the episode, because that's kind of the corporate control element, which is fundamental to it. I love how that's going to play out in the show. I'm really intrigued to see if we see representatives from each member of these organizations. Maybe they're all vying for a way to use these synthetics, or maybe they're all trying to get their hands on whatever's on the ship as it lands. Maybe we'll see each of them vying to get into that ship. Maybe that's going to be something that we'll see as the season goes on. But let's start out with the Maginot, this epically cool looking ship that reminds you so much of the Sulaco and the Nostromo back from the days of Alien and Aliens. John, what did you think of the visual of the Maginot and the crew here, and Morrow being the major cast member that we see there?
I just loved it. I mean, I think for me, you know, as soon as you're in space, you see that kind of spacecraft. You know, and I mean, there's lots of different elements to this series. One of which is seeing the Maginot spaceship. I love the design. It's in keeping with the Nostromo and the other ships of the Alien worlds and movies. But equally, you know, I like this notion that they're on a 65-year mission. You know, they're 805 million miles to go to Earth. You've got the crew waking up from sort of an initial kind of cryo sleep here and getting food into them so that they can then go back into cryo sleep for a further 3 months on their final sort of return to Earth. And in some ways, that's the reason why you have such dated looking technology, is that this is technology from 65 years ago. And
Love that idea.
It's such a great idea. I mean, it almost reminds me of the classic sci-fi movie around Forever War, you know, where there's a war in distant galaxy that is where soldiers are being sent off to. It takes so long to get there and come back that by the time they come back from ultimately a defeat, the people of Earth are kind of like don't really care.
Yeah.
They're not hailed as heroes or anything like that. It's just,
where were you again?
It's moved on because
Right.
it takes them so long to go into battle on the far sides of the galaxy.
That's a book called The Forever War.
Yes,
it's not a movie, isn't it?
It's not a movie.
Yeah, not yet.
And
We'll see it.
you know, it's kind of, it's a metaphor for the Vietnam War. The author, I can't remember his name now, it escapes me, but it was an American author. So this is the reason for the sort of the technology, but the technology is great. I love seeing this old technology. I mean, the design of it is right in the Alien
It is.
Sort of wheelhouse. So that
Even the sounds of when the computers turn on, you almost hear the reel-to-reel tapes sound in the background. You know, that sounds exactly like the noises you would have heard back in the 70s when Alien first came to cinemas. You know,
and I mean, there's a lot of information here. I mean, as you say, the main person that we, in essence, get to connect with here, but you do have a good amount of connection across most of the crew here. But the one initially is the security officer, Morrow here. He's really saying that their mission, which was the collection of, specimens from around the galaxy, that is the priority. That is the mission. You know, a lot of the talk here in the spaceship is just really good because it's talking about these missions, and then you just kind of get flashes. So it's not flashbacks, you just get flashes. So it's almost like PTSD memories coming in at one point when there's a guy who's teaching, you can tell he's down in the engine, he's one of the technicians, and he just says to Morrow, we lost a lot of good men to get these organisms and these specimens. And you just see a flash of the different organisms, you know, eyes and tentacles, the face huggers, and so on. And this is the same guy who was in Spaced, actually, which was a Channel 4 TV show. And he's kind of the one that teaches you about the corporate control as well. He's kind of telling his apprentice about, I think he describes it as the social studies part of his teaching.
I guess when they arrive back to Earth, there's some kind of debrief when they arrive, because the kid seems really nervous that he doesn't know all this information about the corporations that are in control of Earth. Or maybe just everything's changed in the 65 years, so you have to have some kind of concept of what's going on back on your home planet. Maybe that's something that you have to do out there. But I do love that idea. It almost explains why the technology looks so much further backward than you'd expect it to when everything on the planet is so far forward. That idea that it's 65 years back. And this introduction to all the cast, all the members of the crew here, the interplay between them is fantastic. There's some really good little moments between each of them, and I was furiously taking notes about every single one of them, and then realized they're not going to be a part of the show very much in the future, unless, since we have got a full TV show, unless we come back to what actually happened aboard the vessel in the future, which I kind of have a feeling that we might.
I think we might, because
there's a couple of questions about it that pop up. You know, we have.
We have Tang, who seemingly I think is a synth. So Morrow in the first instance is a cyborg. So he's a human, but he's enhanced primarily, I think, on his right arm with basically a Swiss Army knife of an arm, that can do all manner of things.
Yeah, he's like Claw from Ulysses Claw from Black Panther.
Exactly. Yeah. But then you have Tang, and there was another person sat with him. Effectively kind of been given out to because he was a bit creepy, very measured, probably a synthetic, like from the Alien movie played by Ian Holm, who went on to become the Hobbit in The Lord of the Rings, Bilbo Baggins.
Yes.
And so...
I thought you were going to say went on to be evil, but you went into a completely different movie there. He did go on to be evil.
He did go on to be evil because he was... everything for the company. And so that dynamic is very much brought here. I mean, the whole thing is imbued with alien-esque things, a lot from the computers to that kind of tension between what the corporation wants and what the individuals or society wants. But you also get a glimpse of a ginger cat on board the ship as well. As they come out of cryosleep, you know, it's the classic cryo chambers from Alien, but equally one of the guys immediately lights up and has a smoke after he's out from cryosleep, like you saw in Alien. So
Apone taking his cigar out the minute he gets out of cryosleep. That's really reminiscent of that. But there is that conversation. Like, I know we're suggesting definitely when we watch that Tang looks like the synthetic, and we know Morrow is a cyborg because he has the enhancements. But they have the interesting conversation, just like the idea from Weyland-Yutani, and that everything is about their mission. That's it. It's effectively the reason why they've been woken up, I think, is because they don't know whether they have enough fuel to get them to Earth, and they have to make some adjustments to get them back on track for the trip. That's why they've been woken up out of their cryosleep at this particular moment.
That's true, yeah. The captain says that they need to close down systems.
Yeah, and what we have is the mechanic character coming over and saying, well, throw out the menagerie that's down in the zoo that's down there, and then he's told, no, that's the mission. And almost tacked onto the end of that, invisibly put there by Morrow, is every single member of the crew is expendable, especially when told we've lost a lot of good people filling up the menagerie. Well, he's going, well, it doesn't really matter if all of you die, as long as the menagerie gets back to Earth, which is what plays out later on in the episode. So Morrow seems to be the one following the company line here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's also, I think, to the point that you know, we'll get a flashback or see actually what happens, because we see the Maginot, you know, on its collision course, which is an absolutely cool sequence, and I'll come to that in a second. But you know, you do hear Morrow saying to Tang, "Wake me up a week out." So that's interesting, because literally they're crashing, and then in this sequence of them approaching one of the satellites around the moon, which they clip a number of the pylons on it. You have utter chaos taking place on the USCSS Maginot, because you have some of these specimens, in particular a xenomorph, having escaped. And it's interesting, just before they go to sleep, into cryosleep, all these, again, you get these flashes of what's to come. Just really briefly, and I just thought that was a real cool way of handling it.
It is.
And then
really creepy.
you have effectively Morrow sat in the operations room with Weyland-Yutani's mother computer, where he's, you know, typing out specimens loose on a collision course with Earth, and it comes to status of the crew, and one of his crewmates is battering on the door saying, "Let me in, Morrow. The thing's coming this way." And he gets up, very cool. His arm pulls out sort of a like a Bunsen burner type attachment, where he then torches up and ignites it and solders himself into the room. And you have the alien take out this poor woman. Again, kind of very brutal. You know, a lot of times in the Alien movies, it was that the tail would come and get them, or you didn't necessarily see it. This, you kind of see it scratching at her, shaking her around, and so on. So it's very visceral, but it comes back as it notices there is another there is another prey item available to it in the form of Morrow. So starts to go at the door, as Morrow has typed in crew dead.
Yeah.
And I just love the line, "Mother, I need your impact room," or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And opens up to get in for both the crash, but the alien is also pretty much through the door, and he manages to get safely stowed away in the impact room, the panic room, whatever you want to call it, just in time, but a little bit of the saliva from the alien gets onto him, and then the alien does start battering the floor, but it is too strong for it to get into. That whole sequence to me was fantastic.
It was brilliant.
I loved it.
Yeah, it felt like a statement of intent as well. As you say, the gore that's included in that scene where he's killing the member of the crew that's outside of the room. The amount of gore that's there, usually in your first kill of one of the Alien movies, it would be done in darkness or done in shadow or something like that. You leave the gore for later on in the movie. In this case, you're starting off your series, you want to show a bit of xenomorph gore in your opening because you're laying out the statement. You're going to see lots of this throughout the season. So what a cool way to do it.
Yeah, well, and just the brutality of the attack.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you see that. You don't see that in the original, in Alien.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference with Alien, certainly, because the xenomorph wasn't on screen very much, because it was very difficult to build and very difficult to operate. So, you know, similar to the Jaws example back in the 70s, you know, they hid it in the background and in corners. So you didn't see very many physical kills, but the terror was there. By the time it got to Aliens, technology had advanced quite a bit, so you could actually show a bit more one-on-one action between them, and now you've got to the point where you have an actor in a suit playing the alien, and they're having a lot of fun with being able to show it on screen now as well.
Well, indeed, yeah.
No, but it's fantastic and so reminiscent of that. What a great way to drop you into this world. And
absolutely.
From this point onwards, I think I was in already, so they would have had to do some major missteps to lose their grip on me for the rest of the series, the rest of the episode anyway.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think this is really good. And like it does cut back to Earth, where we then get to glimpse, you know, the boy Cavalier, this kid trillionaire, and his Neverland research facility, you know, hugely pulling from, you know, Neverland, Peter Pan lore, you know, it's not that it's trying to hide any of that. It is to live forever. It's the intent for this race for immortality.
Yeah, but it does a few extra touches to kind of add to that as well. The idea that the only people that can become the hybrids that he's creating are kids, because adults' minds are unbendable. They won't be able to fit into the body.
Says they're too stiff.
To
be able to handle this transition.
Which is interesting when you think about the fact that he calls himself Boy Cavalier, and he is this child prodigy. You know, you wonder how long left he has before his mind becomes fixed and is unable to be put into the body. Is that why he's in a rush to get this done, and create this other, I guess, race of synthetics? You know, this is his idea. So
it's the hybrids.
Yeah, so you wonder whether that's part of it. Is he trying to create all this for himself? He's certainly got the ego to spend all of his money to make sure he can live forever, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think you're right. You definitely get this sense of ego from the boy Cavalier. I mean, even when the ship crashes to Earth, he's like, that's mine now. But he's imbued with this playfulness to Marcy, but it's almost like he's doing that to get what he wants, which is her to go through this process of having her memory transferred from her effectively terminally ill body into this synthetic. And he kind of comes down from his little cockpit in the room where they do it and says, do you know who Neil Armstrong is? And she says, yes, he was an astronaut. Marcy says, he goes, he was, but he was the first to go to the moon, and you're going to be the first person to transfer from a human body into a synthetic. But this is all for his good, the company, the corporate good, not as such her good, even though that is a side effect, So I kind of really like that, and you get that sense that everything to do with his ego. He's actually quite selfish. He's quite petulant, a bit insufferable, really.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just really well imagined and played by Samuel Blenkin, who's the actor playing Boy Cavalier.
He's risible. You just want to give him a bit of a slap.
Really
at times.
is.
Then you go, God, this guy's a trillionaire. He could buy and sell my entire my entire genealogy, not just my family.
Absolutely.
But there is just a little touch in a moment where he's talking and trying to convince Marcy. She's fine. She's going to go through with the procedure at this stage. But there's just a moment in the way that he says it to her about her being the first. She's going to be the new Neil Armstrong. And she says, because I'm special. And he kind of repeats it with a little bit of a laugh, as if you think we're doing this because you're terminally ill and we're rewarding you by giving you a body that will allow you to last forever. But actually, you're doing this to further me, my company, my interests. He almost laughs because she's convinced herself that they're doing it for her.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I got, because he's not that interested in her. And it leads to this discussion that I think will last throughout the series as well. This idea of once her consciousness, Marcy's consciousness, is put into the body of Wendy, as she names herself, is she no longer human? There's always been that discussion throughout, the idea of the synths within the alien world. Are they human? Are they humankind? Are they similar to humans? Do they have the same feelings and emotions? We've had it all the way back to the beginning and right the way through to Alien Resurrection, with Winona Ryder being built by other synths. So she's the first synth created by synths. There's a whole idea of then, now, are they equivalent to humans? So it will be a concept I think they're going to talk about quite a lot.
And I mean, you get that sense between the crew with Teng, and
that he's othered,
and even from Morrow as a human, but with cybernetic enhancements. And the great thing here is that actually we're experiencing a first here, and the rest of this universe has no idea about hybrids, because you have this whole thing afterwards, with Dame Sylvia, one of the scientists, and Kirsch, who is played by Timothy Oliphant, who is a synthetic, where they're having in miniature that kind of conversation with her. She's kind of, not only does she have the memories of Marcy put in, she's chosen the name Wendy. As she's having that transfer done, she says she looks like a Wendy. I want to be called Wendy. But the next time we see her, she's also physically enhanced, in that not only is she now in an adult synthetic body, but she is both strong, fast, and highly durable and resilient. She jumps down from a cliff, ultimately, and you have this great moment where you have Dame Sylvia saying, the human body has cortisone, testosterone, estrogen, all these different hormones acting on the experience of being human, and we're trying to replicate that as best we can. And so they're talking about different doses, because she's like saying she's just discovered breasts, and it's like, what are these for? Because she's still got the mind of a child, but exactly. the body of an adult. And they're having this question of, well, what is she? And Dame Sylvia is like, this vessel is the body for the human mind and the human experience. So this adolescence, these hormones, are critical to Marcy/Wendy's development here, even though it's in a synthetic body. And you have Kirsch kind of saying, well, no, it's not anymore. Why are we pretending that she's anything other than really a synthetic? She's not human. That's kind of his perspective. And they've discussed this and talked about this. And Dame Sylvia says, but she's right there, They're also all being watched by the boy Cavalier. So, like, I kind of really like that awkwardness of, well, what is she? And she asks the question, well, what am I? Am I human? And it's like, well, you can be whatever you want,
says Kirsch. Yeah, exactly.
Again, very much in the spirit of Neverland as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, Kirsch has his own ideas behind it. He's a synth himself. So him having the discussion with the scientist who did all the work to extend her life and to create this body and set it all up. There's a great three-way conversation there, even though Wendy doesn't get to give her opinion at all. It's all about what Kirsch says and what Dame Sylvie say. So, in that moment. So really good, really good. And we do get the creation of more people like her. Don't know how long she's in Neverland itself after she's done the transfer. It seems to be a while, because they're still doing tests and still, figuring out, but she seems so relieved when she learns there's going to be other kids, coming along who will be also going through the same procedure that she is. But she's asked by Dame Sylvie to usher them and guide them through the procedure as their big sister, effectively, because she's gone through it before, which leads to another one of the best filmed moments in the episode, where we have her showing them the magic trick as each of the young kids who are also terminally ill are transferred into their new bodies. It's fantastically done, just as the camera goes around the table and each of them are transferred into their bodies, and then their body joins
it's really
this circle
cool.
around the table.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I also kind of like the questions that the kids ask her as well. Or not. Like, she goes, you can ask me anything, and one of them says, I want to be a scientist. And she's like, that's not a question, but okay. And then the other one, which, starts to make it a bit more sort of dark, is, and when do we get to go home? And she says, well, you don't. So, like, that's the other side of it. She very much seems to know why she's there, that it was a deal with her father. She knows that her brother, that we see she's looking at, even though, the scientists think maybe she's having too much contact, he thinks that she is dead. She knows she has to stay away, at least at the Neverland Research Station, that there is this separation, at least in to some degree.
But they're allowing her to watch him. They are fully aware of what she's able to see and what she's not able to see. So they're able to see that she is following Joe.
But I think that some of the Arthur, the scientist, is saying, is this, in a sense, he's nuancing or is inferring, is this going to be a problem? She's seeing too much of him.
Yeah.
She's getting way too obsessed with it. So is this going to be a problem for effectively trying to forget him?
Yeah. I love that moment where we see that she's got every single one of her teddy bears in her bedroom focused on the screen to watch Joe while he watches Ice Age in his room, and she's telling the story of who Joe is to these teddy bears. There's one thing about that, though, the story, where she says specifically, she calls out her brother's called Joe DiMaggio, like the baseball player. So I don't know whether her surname is DiMaggio and his surname was DiMaggio, but everybody seems to be calling him Joe Hermit, and therefore they're calling her Wendy Hermit, I guess. So I just don't know what what the actual surname is, because she specifically says he is Joe DiMaggio, like the baseball player. And then we see that he's so into baseball that he's listening to it, to old games when he's walking, when she's watching him. So.
And yet on his uniform, when he's going to the search and rescue at the ship, it has hermit.
It does.
Which I think you see a lot of military uniforms, like sort of when they're at base with their name like that. So whether that's his tag name, Hermit, or his surname, I don't exactly know. But here we do get that, as Wendy is watching him, that it's Joe DiMaggio, like the baseball player, she says.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe it's because we watched Top Gun a couple of years ago and and everybody's got like Maverick written on there.
Yeah,
so
that's
maybe I was thinking that's what Hermit is, and just because it comes out of her mouth and she says it that way. But it doesn't really matter. His name's Joe. We know that, right?
Yes, exactly. So I think it is, like you say, it's more Top Gun Maverick.
Maybe that's what it is. But John, is there anything else about the Lost Boys and Wendy we want to talk about? I love that they've all gotten the names of the Lost Boys from Peter Pan as they all transition over into their new bodies. Is there anything else we want to talk about them in the first episode, though?
The two things I kind of really want to kind of mention is I really love how Sydney Chandler here, who plays Wendy, has and gets the child's mind in an adult body.
Yes.
And even just the childlike approach to an adult's world. And I think that comes from where, as we were saying, she does say, I want to get involved and rescue my brother. And there's two things like that. You get that epic, let's prepare for battle, like you get in Aliens, where they're kind of getting all the guns and so on. Yet she goes and picks up her favourite toy, clips it to her belt, and then rips off the guillotine blade off the paper cutter.
From the paper cutter, yeah.
And
then sticks it to her back.
Sticks it to her back,
as if she's magnetised, isn't it?
But she's enhanced.
Yes.
Certainly with physical attributes of speed and strength and resilience. So maybe she has a few magnets placed in the right place. But
well, you see how the screen reacts when she puts her finger towards it. So maybe she's all magnetized. It's like a CRT screen when you used to put a magnet on it and destroy your TV. Like,
so I kind of really like that, and this comes through with all the kids. Certainly, when she goes to tell them that they're about to go on a mission, you've got a number of them just fidgeting, being really childlike. And in the end, they're going into this really incredibly dangerous situation, but don't really know that it's dangerous because while she wants to go and help her brother after seeing him on the news footage of the crash, she wants to help him search and rescue. She doesn't realize that she's going to have to help him and save him ultimately, and neither do the other kids, because Prodigy don't even actually know exactly what's on this ship. So I like that kind of unknown element here, but I think moving to the crash site of the Maginot in New Siam.
Oh, I love the scene. I would love to have seen this on a big IMAX screen in the cinema.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool. But we have all of the team standing on the roof of a building, chilling out, chatting with each other about the day's events and what's going on with each of them. Working out, of course. And then we see the Maginot overhead as it's going in on its crash line. It just looks incredible, and it's like an instant switch in each of them. They all know that they are now required to click into search and rescue mode. We know Joe's a medic, as we heard from the voiceover from Wendy as he was introduced. So he is a center of this team here. Most of the rest of the team seem to be on the search and rescue part of it. He's the person that is going into the field to help them with his medic abilities, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really good, the crash. I think the other side of this that I loved even more was, after the ship has crashed, they've mobilized, they're in their search and rescue vehicles, and as they get out, the camera follows and you have the crash site. I mean, firstly, it's really epic, but the one thing I loved was that the the spaceship's engines were still firing, and it was so cool.
It was, and then you have the full body burn, the stunt person that's running out, and they're head to toe in flames as they're coming out of the crash. So it's just incredible. And that, again, you can see they've all been involved in events like this. Maybe not spaceships crashing into the Earth, but they've been involved in events like this before, because each of them knows their position, knows what they need to do, including Joe, who's sending people off to the medic tents while he and the rest of the team find the people that need more help, I suppose. Yeah.
I think the other few little touches that I really like about this is that at the end of the day, this is a Weyland-Yutani ship that has downed into Prodigy territory.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, they're there to search and rescue, but they're also there to secure the site. As we said before, Boy Cavalier goes, I want what's on that ship. The other thing I like is Boy Cavalier's advisor, Atom, played by Adrian Edmondson from The Young Ones, which was a British TV show, used to be married to Jennifer Saunders as well.
He is absolute comedy royalty.
Absolutely.
Which really makes me think he must be something big in this show. He's the first ever synthetic that Boy Cavalier built,
created,
and therefore now he's the right-hand man. He's always around him.
Yeah.
Very understated performance from Edmondson here, which is a real surprise when you cast him in the show.
But it's really good. When Boy Cavalier, finds out that it's a deep space research vessel, and I want what's in that ship. He says, it's ours now. And Atmos just says, she won't like this, Yutani. To me, I just thought that was brilliant because, again, I've never picked up on the fact that Yutani, one half of Weyland-Yutani, was a female CEO. So I just really like that kind of, again, just world building.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a little touch. We don't see her or anything like that. But we know that Yutani is not going to like what Boy Cavalier is doing. The politics of it for sure. No one ever would expect that they would, but equally that it's a lady is really, really cool. I like this world building. It gets me really excited because I'm like, all these names and things from the Alien movie just expanded out like this. I mean, it almost feels Dungeons and Dragons-esque, taking a little thing and just building it out slowly. So that I loved cool about this show.
Yeah, and I suppose,
as well.
Obviously taking into the context that there's only 5 corporations that own the entire planet, plus some of the moons and some of the planets in our solar system as well. But this is like something falling in China that belongs to the US. This is the kind of conversations that must be going on between current countries at the moment when, an astronaut falls from space with all of the research that they've done for NASA. If they fall into an unfriendly territory, is there ever those discussions where the unfriendly territory goes, no, that's ours now?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably is.
I think the other thing as well, we mentioned about Wendy wanting to go, but given how important this proprietary sort of process is for him, as soon as he sees a response, I know we mentioned this before, and I would say like this desire to go, he does say it was almost human. But he's so, dare I say it, cavalier with a C about this, I guess, multi-million sort of dollar property that he has created in this synth. He goes, off you pop to New Siam. Like, is as I say, just very cavalier. Cavalier is very cavalier about his proprietary hybrid, effectively going out as a first responder at a disaster scene.
Well, absolutely.
But it's interesting. He sends Kirsch, who I guess is kind of his right-hand man in the science world with Arthur and Dame Sylvia. So, yeah, I just thought this was really, really interesting. And then the crash site itself, as you say, really epic.
Yeah. It is really interesting that he's choosing to send out these hybrids that he's effectively just created.
The Lost Boys.
Yeah, but it's interesting, and I think there's a trailer out for the new Tron movie where they talk about, there's a creation of a the best warrior on the planet, and the person who's showing it off to the world is saying, and if they die, I'll just bring back another one. It's no problem at all. It's really simple. And you kind of feel like that's Boy Cavalier's attitude here. What if Wendy does die in the field? Yes, okay, he's created a body that's stronger and faster than other human bodies, and we saw her make that jump a couple of 100 feet off the side of a cliff, and no issue at all. We saw her run at fast speeds. But if she encounters something that rips her apart and kills her, can he just recreate Wendy again? Can he just put her consciousness inside another body again? Is it as simple as that? Does he have loads of these bodies lying around? No problem at all. He can just keep creating, keep churning them out. No problem. We haven't heard that. We haven't seen that. We know that Wendy has the essence of Marcy inside of her, and that is the character, that is the person that Marcy is now. But that again changes that question as to whether Marcy's human, if there's a whole truckload of Wendy bodies available to just keep putting the consciousness into again and again and again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's another interesting thing that may come up. But also, as you say, if his competitors get their hands on this hybrid that he's just created, does that not advance them in this race for control of the universe? So many interesting things can come out of what's happening here in this episode.
Absolutely. And so, like, to the crash site, we have Joe going in with one team, but there is another team as well who are unfortunate, Hoyt and Anant, who actually come across Morrow. So Morrow has survived the crash.
Yes.
And he effectively ties them up as they have actually found the laboratory where they were all the specimens were being kept, and they find this specimen lab with a dead body which has been shot but also looks very drained, which unfortunately is a precursor or foreboding element to how Hoyt and Anant are going to end up after Morrow has tied them up. I kind of like the notion that Morrow asks them, "Where's Cavalier?" And Hoyt's like, "How the hell would I know?
Absolutely.
I'm like a soldier. I just work for the corporation." And like, it's almost as though Morrow seems to think that they know already. And maybe Atom, Cavalier's right-hand man, does know. Maybe Cavalier knows. Maybe it's all very sort of a lot of subterfuge at the moment and stuff that will sort of be unraveled and opened up as we move along.
Like we said earlier on, it's a 65-year mission. Was there a point at some point in the last 65 years that someone learnt that Weyland-Yutani sends spaceships out into the galaxy to get specimens for their research? Is that, something that the rivals know about, and that's why when one of their ships crash landed in his territory, it's like, this is a total payload here for us,
The tech is 65 years old. The tech has moved on, that they can be intercepted much easier on the basis of those long range transmissions.
Potentially,
there is that element where not only have they carved up the Earth, they've carved up the solar system, and so different corporations own different planets in the solar system. So maybe those long-range communications using 65-year-old technology isn't as good as the new tech on the outer planet of the solar system.
Absolutely.
I think we hear that Weyland-Yutani owns Mars and Saturn. So who knows what Prodigy owns or any of the others. So I kind of like the fact that it's almost as though Morrow seems to think that they know what they're coming for, hence why they're in there. But actually, poor Hoyt and Anant have just ended up there in doing a search and rescue mission. And pleading with him, look, just let us go. We won't call this in. But he doesn't, and there is this kind of leech-like insect that has gotten onto Hoyt.
Yeah.
And so, effectively, this creature, a new one, thought up, developed by the team behind this show, it's kind of like a leech. It sucks out and drains his blood. I love the fact that it's crawling on his head, and I was there going, oh, it's going to get him in the eye, it's going to go up his nose, it's going down his mouth, which is kind of the usual thing that you'd think. Or even when he went between his head and the helmet, so it's going to bore into the brain. But actually, I love the fact it went straight for the jugular, like a vampire, and then inflated.
Just
as
sucked every single...
it didn't. I probably didn't even need to suck it, just pumped into it, and it inflated like a big bloody balloon full of Hoyt's blood. And you've got Annette sort of with his back to him, hearing the screams, the panic, and then slowly the silence. And then another one gets onto Annette, and it's just left with him screaming. You don't even see this one attack him. You just know it's going to happen. But it was so good. And I like the notion that the show is also introducing new specimens here. There's the classic face huggers, and we've seen, at least in flashes and in part, the xenomorph, but there are these other specimens on board which are equally horrific. Certainly these ones are pretty horrific.
Absolutely. And that kind of comes down to what Noah Hawley was trying to achieve with the series. He did say that, it was difficult to come into this series. We've had so many movies about the aliens, when he was a kid and watching it, there were 4 different states of the aliens. You have the eggs, you have the face huggers, you have the chest bursters, and you have the xenomorphs. And they've all been used multiple times across multiple movies in loads of different ways. So he thought a great way into this was also to have other specimens of aliens that kind of fit the universe, that can be absolutely terrifying as well.
And see how their life cycle plays out.
Potentially, yeah. That's
these could be like little babies, and they've just gotten their first fill of blood, and they turn into something a little bit more menacing.
Absolutely.
Or maybe they die and then they start again. Or reproduce, and there's thousands of eggs that create thousands of these bugs.
Yeah, the human race, especially in this area of New Siam, is screwed with all of these beings that are there. But it does provide that terror. It does provide those moments where you go, no. Like when, as you were saying, as the bug is crawling around inside the helmet, I was getting flashbacks to Wrath of Khan, the Star Trek movie, with the bug that crawls into the ear and kills the
classic
crew member there. So it definitely brought the element of fear, especially having the two of them tied up by Morrow, who leaves the room while this whole thing is happening. I don't think even Morrow knew what was going to happen. He probably just assumed he's almost letting them go. He's tying them up so they can't follow him. And then this attack happens, and both of them are destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he looks around otherwise and says, the samples are secure in the lab. I'm going after the fugitive.
Yes.
Effectively the xenomorph.
Well, he says fugitives, multiple.
So multiple. And that's interesting, because then the other search and rescue team, so that's made up of Wendy's brother Joe, and another 2 of the search and rescue Prodigy people. They end up in the cryosleep room with all the chambers. And so you do see the chest buster out of one of the glass fronts of the cryo chamber. They say something crawled out of here. You then, as they're leaving, so they see the bloody trail of the chest buster sort of going out of the room, and they follow that. But I don't know whether it's a different cryo chamber, you see one of the face huggers inside it. Out of the lab, and so on. You also see a shadow of something move above Joe in kind of the void above the light and the ceiling. Don't know what that could be. It could be a face hugger. Don't think it was the xenomorph, but equally, it's something. And I do like that background. Ooh, what's that moving? That's always been great in Alien.
Absolutely.
And you're kind of thinking, instinctively, when I first saw it, I was like, ooh, that must be the xenomorph and its tail. And then when I saw it again, I was like, no, it seems too thin, but maybe that's just the perspective through the light glass. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's the tail of the facehugger, or maybe it's one of the other specimens that Morrow is after.
Well, you'd think if it was a facehugger, it would have just attached itself to either Joe or one of the other two people that were there. So probably not that. But that's a really important thing that they found. They found a body of someone that was in cryosleep.
Exactly.
That has had a chest burster come out of them, and we saw all of them get up and go back into cryosleep without any of the stuff of going onto a planet and having a facehugger attached to them or anything like that. So,
and there was no talk about that having happened to anyone that was in there.
Exactly.
It was just simply the technician guy who said, "I lost a lot of men.
We lost a lot of good people." Yeah, absolutely. But that means very likely then Morrow, who had that extra week or would asked for that extra week before they landed, literally used a facehugger to impregnate one of the other members of the crew.
Did something. That's where my suspicion really sort of heightened really around Morrow, and what he said there in the opening of the episode was because yes, you have the chestbuster, but also then there's a facehugger. As I say, whether it's a different cryo chamber or the same one, but
see, I thought that was the storage of the specimen. I didn't think that was in another cryo chamber. I thought that was just the storage of the specimen, that you're seeing the facehugger through the glass in that.
I thought it was in a cryo chamber.
Okay.
So who knows? Yeah. So anyway, it kind of just adds to the intrigue of how the disaster unfolded. And then to your point, we probably get some kind of flashback. So the whole crash site was really tense.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm wondering whether the whole series is actually going to be based on the crashed ship rather than it getting out. But I do then, as soon as I was thinking along those lines, I went, oh, I remember there was in the trailer, there was this kind of picture or this image of an alien in a big cave outside of the city. I don't know whether it was a still or part, but no, I think it moved. So I'm just not entirely sure. But for a split second, I thought, oh, is this kind of the interesting thing is that it's on a spaceship, but it's a crashed one.
A crashed one, yeah. Interesting.
But we'll see.
See that, yeah. Anything else about the episode that you want to talk about, John?
The only thing I think that I want to mention is at the start with Marcy and Kirsch, you have this little moment where they're viewing and talking about the scorpion in the big glass bowl. And Marcy's saying, she doesn't like it. There's that immediate kind of similarity in that it's a black scorpion, but also the similarity to the alien xenomorph and H.R. Geiger's design, this notion of, the armor, the heavy armor, and so on. But also they have this conversation. It's about being top of the food chain effectively. And Marcy doesn't like it. And Kirsch asks, well, do you want me to kill it? Now she says no, but as Kirsch points out, what do you think, this scorpion feels having humans looking over it, as it's under glass and having that power of life and death held in, their hands. And I think there's a final moment, as Kirsch and the Lost Boys are flying in to kind of land at New Siam, and he's having a conversation with Wendy. So all of them saying, we were food, then we weren't, and then we stopped being food. Our brains developed, we have found tools, and we became top of the food chain. And we stopped being food, or we told ourselves that you weren't food any longer. And in a sense, it's that same conversation. It's that pretext to what the role reversal is with the alien xenomorph and humans. Here is the top predator. It's the thing that Kirsch says to Wendy. There's always something out there that will be, top of the food chain compared to you. It's just that kind of, it's a nice little mirror in the episode with that conversation that he has with her, from the other side, of humans being that top predator with the scorpion, with Wendy this time rather than Marcy. And you have that interesting sort of comeback from Wendy's, from Kirsch when he says, everyone will die. He goes, my brother won't die. And he's like, well, he will. They always do. Old age, accidents, and so on. And she's like, no, I'm going to save him. So, this familiarity she's had with watching him, there is something going on there.
Oh, definitely.
And it's more than likely, I want to give him what I've got.
Yep. She certainly doesn't understand the idea. If she can't give that to him, he will die. She lives an eternal life now, so effectively at some point he will die and she won't, is kind of what Kirsch is trying to put into her. But I absolutely love that conversation. I love the idea that humans chose to no longer be the bottom of the food chain. They're no longer food. And then they went out into space and started to find things that will eat them, and they've turned back into food again. It's almost that cyclical thing. It's almost like he's admonishing the entire human race, saying, "Well, you shouldn't have gone out to try and find things that can eat you again if you felt like you wanted to remain not food."
Well, exactly. Really, really good. Derek, what did you think of Alien Earth Episode 1, Neverland?
This is possibly the best opening episode for a TV show I've seen in years. I just was getting that feeling of every time I sit down and watch Aliens, I was just getting that feeling from this show, just the way it's been set up and the characters that are there, the performances that are there. We mentioned about the Lost Boys. Each one of them is a distinct character. They're all playing really individual children. And the work that's going into that, for some of them being background characters for a couple of seconds on screen, is really intriguing. So I want to see loads more of them. I want to see loads more of what happened on the Maginot. Morrow is a fascinating character. Why is he doing what he's doing? The Battle of Weyland-Yutani and the Prodigy Corporation, really intrigued by that. The young Prodigy himself, Boy Cavalier, a character I already love to hate, and it's only been one episode. So the structure of the show so far have been really, really good. They've laid lots of groundwork here for a show that could, as you say, could all take place in this ship underground as they try and round back up the specimens. But I have a feeling it's going to go a bit wider than that. It'll be really interesting to see. So I'm very excited to see the rest of the season. What a great setup in this first episode. And as I say, probably one of the best opening episodes I've seen in years. How about yourself, John? What did you think of this first episode?
Absolutely, really enjoyed this episode. Loved it. I would give this 5 bug-eyed calamaris out of 5. I think exactly the same as you. I love all the different high-level stuff going on, whether it's about being top of the food chain or not, your place, and the thing of, corporate greed, corporate dominance, that, the thing around immortality, synths, cyborgs, and now hybrids. Just all really, really good. And also at the same time, you just have a great moment of this new bug sucking the life out of poor Hoyt and Annette, and going, okay, what's going to happen here? As well as that well-known threat of the xenomorph, but it is just always so kind of cool. I mean, no matter how many times you've seen them predate, kill, use their tail, whatever, there's always just that, uneasiness of seeing them in operation because of how powerful they are. And that comes across again. So for me, absolutely loved this opener. 5 bug-eyed calamaris out of 5. I really want to see what that multi-eyed octopus with an eyeball for a head, I really want to know what that's going to do.
Absolutely. I'd be really interested to find out. Yes, so much good stuff in this opening episode. We have got some feedback in, but most of it's on the first 2 episodes, as both episodes are released at the same time. So we're going to hold it for our discussion on the second episode. We hope you enjoyed joining us for this chat about Alien Earth, Episode 1, Neverland. We will be back later on this weekend with the second episode of Alien Earth, Mr. October. John, it's named after me and you. We're both born in October.
It certainly is. We are Mr. October.
Yes, we are.
Excellent stuff.
But if you want to send in any of your thoughts on the show, you can, of course, email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. And we hope you'll join us for the next episode.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, fellow Lost Boys and aliens, for joining us. Can't wait to come back for Mr. October and discuss everything around episode 2 of Alien Earth.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we find our own Lost Boy. Chris was supposed to be on the podcast with us and unfortunately got lost in the ether. So he might be back for Alien Earth. We hope he will be.
Yes, let's hope. Fingers crossed. But in the meantime, fellow Lost Boys, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep screaming.
Bye.
Bye. Here is the top predator. It's the thing that Kirsch says to Wendy. There's always something out there that can top you.